Vince.
Oh, this is Muhammad Alec.
We are on episode 14 of Behind the Ballot. Thank you for joining us, everybody. And just going to go right into it, starting with our Epstein related topics here. We're going to start with Trump demands end to Epstein hoax and more documents set for release to Congress. So President Trump has publicly demanded an end to what he calls the Epstein hoax, dismissing an ongoing discussions and documents releases as politically motivated by Democrats. So this comes amid plans from Epstein-related documents to be released to Congress. And I believe yesterday there was that very moving press conference with some of the survivors from Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell and what they have done to these victims, and it was very, very moving and
so
interesting to what they were saying, basically. And
so far, only one Republican male has voted to release the files, Massey, and three Republican women, Bo Bear, Mace, and Marjorie Taylor Greene.
yeah,
So I think it's funny how the Republicans politicize this as much as possible, and now that it's backfiring on them, they're just trying to kind of damage control. I know for a fact most of the Republicans likely aren't in there. You know what I mean? It's not
yeah,
like every single Republican is on there, especially considering that Epstein's been gone for about 10 years now. Which time flies. Holy
yeah.
crap.
It's definitely
When
one percenters that are on that list, and
Yeah, a
political
very select
side one
few amount of
percenters.
very
Like, yeah,
powerful people. It's not like your average congressman's going to be on there. So
no,
these people are covering this up just for Trump and their rich donors, which is why the Democrats covered it up, to be fair. But it seems like the Democrats are, smartly so, using this as a weapon against Trump to run with it. And then you got the Republicans who do actually care about America instead of the Republican Party, or should I say, care more about America than the Republican Party. And that's Massey and a few of the ones that we've seen detract from the GOP guardians of pedophiles,
yeah,
as it's
garden
dubbed.
pedophiles. Yeah, basically.
Yeah,
I mean, they're even now threatening the Republicans that did sign that letter that it was an act of treason against the
against the
White House,
President Trump.
against the President of the United States, signing a letter for the release of documents from a prolific human trafficker. And he wants to basically say, if you put your name on this document requesting these additional documents from the Epstein files, then that is seen as a crime against the state, which is outrageous because the way that human trafficking has gone within this country and has kind of gone silently throughout many channels and many pieces of media. It seems like this is a perfect time now to make it a focal point, which he did make it a focal point in his campaign.
Yeah,
He
that's
needs to
the issue.
stand up, for what he brought the light to, and this is not doing that in any regards. I feel like it's doing the opposite. And yes, the victims did have their time to speak about what they were going through, but it also dilutes them when you have the president taking these acts. And I couldn't even imagine if Elon was still attached to him, that he was like, Elon, say something about not funding these candidates that they, sign this letter or things of that nature. Like it's a slippery slope, but it's only going to get worse for him, honestly.
And to further add, I've seen a few complaints, which without proper knowledge would be reasonable complaints, of people saying, why don't the victims just come out and start naming names about everyone that's done this to them? And the thing is, these people can, but if I said Bill Clinton raped me, Bill Clinton has every ground to sue me for defamation now.
Without a doubt.
And if I can't prove that in a court of law, which, as we all know, the Epstein case has been very much covered up because of the many powerful people associated with it, like Bill Clinton and Donald Trump and others, you're not going to get that chance in hell. So these people have spoken up before. They have named names. Many of these victims have gone on to be very mentally depressed or commit suicide or even be hushed down, through financial means or be violently killed. And, we have seen actually multiple of the victims sign NDAs because think
Yeah.
about it. I mean, it's What are you going to do? The entire government's out to cover up what you're trying to say. And they're saying either we make your life hell or you take this $500,000. You know what I mean? Like, you just go on with it. And some people have taken that. And I hate seeing when people say, well, if they took the money, it must not be that big of a deal. No, I'm sure they took the money because this is quite literally a Herculean effort. We've
Yeah, it
even seen
really much
nearly
is.
half of Congress trying to fight for this to no avail almost. Almost, I
Bipartisan
emphasize.
issue across the board, and
Yeah, clearly very powerful figures are at play. You know what I mean? When you're a normal citizen who was quite literally discarded and trafficked around for the amusement of powerful people, how are you going to beat those powerful people in the game they play the most, which is dirty politics and cover ups?
yeah, exactly, and even more dirty politics, or even dirty departments, we can say. The Department of Justice is looking to reportedly offer Ghislaine Maxwell a deal to keep her quiet. So
I saw that.
acting Deputy Chief Joseph Schnitt, Schnitt, I believe that is, was caught on hidden camera claiming Maxwell was offered a deal, including a transfer to a minimum security prison with work release privileges to prevent her from revealing sensitive information. Schnitt suggested redactions would target Republicans in upcoming Epstein file releases. So just understand this. Just understand this here. This is all just to guard the GOP, the guardians of the pedophiles. Realistically, they don't want this information out because from what this individual was claiming on the hidden camera, that they don't want to release these files because it's going to target Republicans, and
Yeah.
2026 is going to be horrible for them, from as these numbers that we've reported 14 episodes in, about the shifts that have been starting to happen with Republicans to more independent and democratic leanings compared to how they are now, or even just shifting from MAGA overall. And in that revolt, they can just vote, Democratic or independent, and not give their vote to those candidates.
Yeah. And no, I think it's an interesting thing to note about how the DOJ reacted to Schnitt, about what he was caught on camera saying. So, do you know about how that entire video got released about him saying that?
No.
So this is so funny. He fell for a honeypot scheme, I should say, not really a scam, because that thinks of that means a financial play part is played, but no, a scheme. What that is a hot chick matches with him one way or another on Hinge, gets introduced to him or bumps into him down at the coffee shop just by
Oh yeah.
chance. And she like jazzes him up. They go on dates. She asks about what he does. Oh wow, that's interesting. You must be pretty high up in the government. I didn't realize, you had that position. Tell me more. And XYZ leads down to what we see here with Eric Schnitt. He went on a Hinge date. This is the second date he went on with this Hinge woman. And she was a reporter who matched with him for the sole fact of trying to get information from him. And clever woman, good for her, because it worked quite well and has made quite the story. And I hope she benefits from that. But the funny thing is, the DOJ, in response to this entire video, said two things. They released a screenshot of a email from Eric on like an Android phone. Like, you can see like the
Yeah.
battery percentage in the top right
Hmm.
corner and everything. Quite literally just a screenshot posted on the official DOJ Twitter. Like, what 23-year-old have you given the keys to this to replicate, to relay this response?
Yeah,
And
literally.
two, the email from Eric Schnitt was just saying that, I mean, Joseph Schnitt was just saying, oh, yeah, I simply repeated what I heard on the news. I didn't give in any inside information. I didn't say anything that wasn't already known. I merely said what I read on the news. I'm like, dude,
Sure.
if you're the acting, let's just phrase this in a different way. If there's a big scandal, it just JFK just happened, you know what I mean? And the FBI, is being accused of covering up who did it. And then the second highest up in the FBI says, yeah, they're trying to cover it up because it involves some bad people on the Republican side. And then he just comes out and say, whoa, well, I merely heard that on the news. Like, buddy, you're the one who would know. You're like literally the
Yeah.
second, third guy who would know this more than anybody. And so it really just reeks of, as we've seen so much with this presidency, pathetic cover up. Like, they
Yeah.
really just can't put out any of these fires that keep being popped up due to their negligence, I should say is the proper term.
Well, negligence and incompetence from,
Yeah,
handling the issue. They were just right out in front with this issue. They would be perfectly fine. Like, I would like, let them have the investigations, let them have the files. Like, if Trump really does, believe, and if people have been saying that, he's not in the files, then just let them be out. If people are
let
gonna
them be out.
be heard from them, then they obviously deserve to be, because they've done, whether it's tragic things, or harmful things to children. It's shouldn't be immoral to get those files out to Congress and to the public, and then have those people honestly just tried as they should be. Like, they should not be able to get away with what they've done in trafficking of children within America or even outside of America. Just the idea of it itself is
I mean,
sickening, and the cover up behind it makes it even worse.
and the fact that you included the outside of America, the State Department has asked the FBI to stop investigating Prince Andrew in relation to the
Yeah,
Epstein sex crimes.
it's
So
all
quite
connected.
literally, they are just stopping the investigation. They are halting any publication of the material. They really, really don't want this to go out any further. And it's like, I think it's a sense like a Pandora's box almost.
Yeah,
Now you guys open the box, you can't close it
literally,
now. You
literally.
cannot close it now. Like for
Yeah,
years, even during the first term, Trump at least smartly played it. I wanted to release them, but the Democrats in the House and in Congress are fighting me on it. You know what I mean? X
yeah.
Y
Now he's
Z.
got everything.
Now he's got everything. He's got no excuse. He's got
Yeah,
no excuse.
no excuse. And
And
it's yeah. What were you gonna say?
I was gonna say, and it's there's a saying that I like. The chickens have to come home to roost, and that's really what's happening right now. We saw Trump. I see people say Trump two second term is much different than the first term, and it's because he can't no longer delay his false promises. You know what I mean? It was always like, oh well, this is what I want to do. This is what I'm going to do. I didn't get enough time to properly fully do it because the Democrats ruined it. X Y Z. And Trump's an incompetent man when it comes to politics, in my opinion. And I'll even go further to say it, he's quite literally a perfect example of what a lot of people dislike about boomers. He's not
Yeah,
the
I would agree. Yeah,
He got a lot of money from his father. He owned housing in one of the quickest growing markets in the world, New York City. He quite literally had to do nothing in order to make money off of that because he got a small loan of $1 million back
a
when he was like a
small,
25-year-old. Take in mind that
small
was
one,
60 years ago. $1 million 60 years ago.
way
Now,
farther than now.
let me pull up the inflation calculator because I'm interested in seeing this. But MJ, if you want, Mikhail, if you want to say anything, feel free. I'm
Yeah,
doing this math right
yeah. I
now.
was gonna say, as you're doing that, as you were saying that, the chickens, as the eggs come to roost, same thing, just with
$10 million. $1 million
yeah,
back then is $10 million now. Yeah,
which you
imagine
can
being a
set
25.
yourself up for life. The average individual,
Literally,
I believe, would be able to set themselves up for life that had the same levels of education that Donald Trump had,
right,
would
right,
be able to get those things done. And
easily.
but
Even if
yeah,
you're a
without a doubt,
bum, you buy $8
yeah,
million of housing, the quickest growing housing market in the world. Park $2 million, a million and a half in the stock market. You're set for life.
literally set for
Literally,
life.
literally. And so I think this is just an example of Trump overplaying his hand like we've seen him do in the past, but now that the cards are on the table, he wants to bring them back, and nobody's allowing him to do it except for the Republicans who are siding with him and hopefully going to detract from his side for the greater good.
Yeah, and I think there's going to be a lot more retractions as well as we move on to our next topic, looking at economic topics under the Trump administration. These job numbers have not been, they have not been that great overall. The U.S. added only 22,000 non-farm payrolls, which is far below 75,000 expected.
Yeah,
So unemployment rose to 4.3%, highest since October 2021. Like, so put that in perspective. We've been
since
losing
COVID.
jobs since COVID, and underemployment, which is even worse, is 8.2. And then, not to mention, we have more unemployed Americans, 7.4 million, than job openings for the first time since April 2021. So these numbers are not looking good. Manufacturing sector lost 12,000 jobs in August and down 78,000 jobs over the year. These economists are saying these slowdowns are attributed to the tariffs and immigration policies, of course. Multiple revisions. The June revision to the jobs report was a negative $13,000. I mean, thousand jobs. With May and June combined, that's down 258,000 jobs. Insane. Looking at those revisions
Oh yeah.
from him touting, all those job numbers back then, and then further June revisions down another 27,000. So within 2 months, that 258,000 jobs, that is not good. Youth unemployment, ages 16 to 24, rose to 10%. 10%. Like
The,
it's not. These numbers aren't looking good at all. He's not being the economy president at all.
Yeah, see, I mean, this is the effect of tariffs. This is why you let the free market be the free market. Because when you try to put a giant block in the cog in the machine, it's only going to get worse. Like, in my opinion, tariffs are, in a sense, if you're going to tax something, tax it in a process that's very easy to account for and process. And the sense of what I mean by that, tariffs is just like you can make your item no tax along the entire process, but then you try to do one certain thing and you're tasked with a Herculean amount of money in order to meet that goal, meet that amount. So like we mentioned in the last episode, there are quite literally foreign companies holding tens of millions, of dollars of inventory because of these tariffs. They're just waiting until they go away, waiting until they see what's happening with the judge, the court cases regarding the tariffs to make that final push and to decide whether or
Yeah.
not they should or just distribute it in other places. And I also, I've been of the mind and stated on this podcast that the stock market is extremely overvalued, and it's when the stock market's overvalued, it's a good way to see that people are putting their money where there isn't money to be made. And that's because of generally an act of not desperation, but exhaustion. People are just trying to trust the old reliable stocks. Right now, the top 10 stocks have more of the entire market cap of the US economy than ever before in history.
Yeah.
So it's really just gotten to the point where investors are throwing what they can at these reliable stocks because they know these smaller companies are going to be getting battered by these tariffs, which we're seeing right now with these job
Yep.
numbers. Manufacturing having a huge contraction because the products they all buy are global products. It's a global economy. We're the United States of America, damn it. Why would we, of all people, not be a global economy? I see, like, don't get me wrong, this is a few of the things I'll call stupid ideas. I've seen people say, like, oh, we need to bring manufacturing fully back to America. Like, we can't bring every step of
Yeah.
the manufacturing process back
Process.
to
Yeah.
America. We can't. We can't. There's just so much stuff that needs to be done globally because we don't even either have the metals, either
Exactly.
we don't have the refining process allowed in the United States because it's so catastrophic to the environment. I mean, in China, the country that leads rare earth metal processing and more, is dealing with massive amounts of environmental damages due to it. They have people who live downstream from these processing plants that get bone marrow cancer at higher rates because of the chemicals in the water that's being set out by this factory. And the thing is, people really, when they talk about wanting to bring the manufacturing process back, we don't need that in America. We
Yeah.
don't.
No, we
If
really
we can,
don't.
if I understand the hesitance to want to have China to have all that ability, let's invest it with Africa. Let's have them do it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, I'm sure they'll gladly take that trade off, take billions of dollars in investment just for a bit of
Without a doubt.
environmental damage. It's a positive trade off over there. Whereas over here, why would we? We're America. And that might sound a little bit rude to people who think, why would we take advantage of other countries? We're not taking advantage of other countries. We're taking advantage of the global situation. And the global situation is these countries would massively benefit from massive Western investment, while we wouldn't benefit from detracting from this reliance on China for these rare earth metals and other manufacturing processes that we can instead see to other places in the world. And I mean, we're even seeing China do this exact thing with Africa already. So really what Trump's doing so wrong, in my opinion, is acting like the idea of preventing investment is somehow good. Yeah, this is like the mentality of somebody who's never been told no in their life. You know what I mean? You
Yeah.
get $10 million in modern dollars at the age of 25. And
Yep.
I'd be probably a pretty arrogant, cocky son of a gun if I had the same thing happen to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, without a doubt, I think anyone really would too. And he's like as you're saying with China, he's also been pushing away India as well, who has now
Oh,
cozied up closer
ridiculous.
to China and so forth. And we're definitely going to hit on that when we get to our next section for the international and domestic policy piece. Um,
But for
but
wait, I
then,
want to
like,
talk. I
yeah,
want
yeah.
to talk a little bit more about this. Do you have anything more to say about the job numbers and how things are looking?
So yeah, for job cuts in August, they're up 39% from July, and overall, I'm sorry, for jobs cuts, there's about 85,000 in August, which is up from 39% from July and 13% from August 2024. So it's the highest for August since 2020. So that's since COVID. So we're looking at COVID job cutting numbers here. So this is the most since 2020. So we're looking at COVID job market numbers in an economy that Trump is saying is apparently booming so well. And the U.S. companies announced just only 1,400 new jobs in August, lowest for the month since 2009.
Yeah,
That's like a year after. No, I think that is the housing crisis 08, 09, like within that time range. And then the sectors that were hardest hit right now, pharmaceutical and finance,
yeah.
which
I mean,
it makes sense.
I mean, in America, the three largest employers are the federal government, healthcare companies, and I'm blanking on the third. But that's because healthcare companies and federal government quite literally take so much of the cake.
Oh yeah, so
Damn.
much of the cake. Yeah,
Yeah.
without a doubt. And
And-
it's not even just like on job front and the manufacturing front, the company front, that it's also hurting. Just continuing through with the U.S. holiday spending. This is the holiday season coming up. Consumers plan to spend 5% less than last year. That's an average of 1,500 per person. So it's the first
Dang.
decline since the pandemic, and Gen Z is really pulling back the most, which makes sense because Gen Z um, at this point in our lives, there's a lot of things that you start having to take responsibility for and pay for as well. And with things being as expensive as they are, you know, rising prices for staple food items are getting ready to go up as well. Like there's been retailers, warning customers and putting warnings out there that there will be, expected rising costs in items like grains and canned goods. So this is primarily because of those tariffs, literally
I,
of those tariffs.
I mean,
It's mhm,
it blows my mind. Yeah, the one, yeah, rising costs literally directly by tariffs. I know you
literally,
said the other day, we're getting these nice taxes, we're getting this tax revenue from another source. But I would argue that while we were getting that tax revenue, we're offsetting a lot of potential income and investment and growth by these tariffs, which generally offsets the gain of tax revenue more than anything. And we're seeing that now. Just the general price of all these items, wholesale goods, food going up in price to the fact that it's directly affecting the American people. We're not going to get that tariff money. We
yeah,
are not getting a dollar of that tariff money. That's all going to go to the US government for them to spend on the military again to bomb more people in the Middle East. That's going to go to rich people with tax cuts. You know what I mean? It's going to go to bailing
yep.
out more large companies. It's probably going to go to, at this rate, it's going to be going to for the US government to own companies, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I mean, when you were saying with having the money go to companies, that's looking at like what was just reported. I think it was today or yesterday. U.S. companies have surged past 1 trillion in stock buybacks.
Yeah.
So as these job reports are coming out, and as companies are shuttering, closing their doors, cutting jobs, from these tax policies that were passed in the big beautiful bill, the stock buybacks are at a 1 trillion by August 20th. So they're probably even more now compared to then. So the projections are the projections were 1.3 trillion overall. So it's just enriching investors and rugged capitalism for everyone else at the bottom, realistically.
Yeah. No, that's really what it is. I mean, the economy is set up right now, and it has been for the last 30 years to benefit at the middle age, now the old, before it was the middle age, the boomers when they were middle aged. It is now set to benefit the old at the expense of the poor. Like,
Yeah.
this is really going to be a massive bubble where people are just trying to get their last dollars out before they die.
And
And
soon the middle class too. The middle class is getting squeezed. Soon there will
oh
not
yeah,
be a middle class. There will only be a high poor and a low poor, and then the top 1%,
I
or the top 10% and up. We'll just say. But
and the thing is,
yeah,
this is why young people are so angry. Like, we're literally getting the most short end of the stick. Like, people 40 and younger. That's why you see such a stark the difference in political belief from people that are 40 and younger Democrats, Republicans, versus people that are 40 and older Republicans and Democrats. And I mean, I think a very big one that you see is just what I mean, immigration is one of them. But aside from that, just general political belief of what works and what doesn't, what's best for the economy. I think that with Trump, this idea, this I don't even know what to call this brand of politics. You know what I mean? State corporatism, you know what I mean, is really like the thing that comes to mind the most. State corporate socialism, maybe a little bit better. Just you gotta throw in a few words in there for how they get
yeah,
bailed
like
out so often.
government enterprise,
Yeah, what
basically.
sacrificing the poor for the rich? You know what I mean? That's that's another way of saying it. But I really do think that this is not looking good for the Republicans. I mean, we see that Trump's trying to do what he can to salvage his reputation almost by somehow doing the worst thing again and again and again. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? It's frustrating to see because if this didn't affect me or my neighbors, I just laugh it off and be like, "What a dumbass!" But this does
Now
affect
it's
me and
totally,
my
yeah, it
neighbors.
really does. It's totally different now being older and going through these Trump policies compared to when we were in college, when Trump was just in office. Like bipartisan analysis from the Congressional Budget Office, and also analysis from Bloomberg stating time and time again that Trump's tax and spending laws delivered largest net gain for the top 10%. So this so the Trump's law boosts the top 10% income which is a net gain in about two $2,025 overall for these individuals. The poorest 10% lost 1,200 a year, a 3.1% cut off the top from what you're taking home from these tax policies. And
Yeah,
you see, he touts the tariff revenue hitting 30 billion in August. He touts the how the economy's doing, jobs, this, that, and the third. But when you peel that all back and you really look at the numbers and you really look at what is going on actually, besides the smoke and all that he tries, and the performance he tries to do, these numbers are not looking good for the average Americans, and also for other generations as well. Americans aren't. I think I saw a report that Americans, that our generation actually are having less sex, so that also breeds to less children, smaller populations.
oh
So
yeah,
that's how a lot of empires usually start to fall, when populations start to shrink. That's what we're seeing in China. Actually, I believe their population is rapidly shrinking. So like, these are issues that are only going to affect further and further generations, like how we saw with Ronald Reagan's economic policy reverberating back all the way to us now, in the way that our tax policy and the way our tax procedures are.
it
So
makes me laugh so much how Republican presidents are consistently the ones that usher in recessions, like
yeah, and they're
consistently.
just consistently the worst on the economy, always run on how
Absolutely,
great they are about the economy. When I always talk to people, I'm like, if you look at all like the last like 5 to 8 presidents, every single Democratic president has either come in when a war has started and ended the war, or when an economic policy or economic crisis was there and has ended the crisis. And when he left and the Republican took over, something would start right then and there. It's
yeah.
it's a pattern. It's literally a pattern. The Democrats come in and clean it up, but the issue is they don't talk about it and beat it on their chest as the Republicans do, and in their circles as well. They don't own it as well, and or slap it across the other team's face like the way that Republicans do,
Dude,
realistically.
Republicans will confidently say they achieved something that they didn't do.
Yeah, no,
You
not at
know what
all.
I mean? And the Democrats won't take credit for something they actually did. Like
No.
the messaging is so bad, and it makes complete sense why the Democrats are in the position they are in now. But even with the Democrats in the position they are now, being such a disliked party by their own voters because of their lack of substance and messaging, they are still doing projected to do
Yeah, doing
better
way
than
better. Yeah,
Republicans in this upcoming midterm. I mean, we've seen the effect that this has all had on Trump's polling numbers. And I mean, right now, one of the big things, the reason Trump won was because, as we just mentioned, people kept saying, oh, the Republican Trump's better for the economy than Kamala Harris would be.
yeah,
And honestly, I could see the argument before this all
yeah.
happened because
Fair
I would
argument.
say
Fair argument.
Kamala's messaging was just terrible. I
Yeah,
had
it
no
was too
confidence in that
socialist
woman.
for the way that everyone's mind was thinking at that point. It was way too
Yeah,
far
and
left
I
leaning.
mean, there was even this one Democrat podcaster, like liberal podcaster, I should say, and he had like an hour-long episode with Kamala pre-election, and they agreed to not publish the episode because of how bad she like did during the episode. Just between asking questions. I mean, that's the thing. Like, people can see passion and they can see honesty. She just seemed like a very faux fake,
I know. Yeah,
party candidate. Like they
yeah,
just
she
put
gave
her
very
in there.
yeah. Not even. I feel like she almost had the same issues as Hillary Clinton, not being really self aware in a
Yeah,
sense,
not at all.
thinking that she has that she has a claim to the presidency just by being vice president. Like, no, it doesn't work like that. You have to earn the presidency. And I feel like she already kind of, you know, thinking that she was going to be president regardless. Like, I don't see that she was self-aware of herself and her campaign. I don't think her staffers were. Well, I think her staffers were, and obviously Biden was self-aware because he allowed her to run knowing that
She
her
was gonna
numbers
lose.
were god awful against Trump and or against I think any other candidate as well. They were god awful.
Yeah,
So that was his little bravado move against the Democrats, which worked, and they have been trying to claw back from that ever since. And honestly, they deserved it because realistically, Biden shouldn't have ran for a second term to even begin with, or ran in the
no.
first place. But should have picked a different vice president, but that's for a different
They
conversation.
literally,
Like,
yeah,
yeah,
that's a different conversation. So let's loop it back to why I even brought this up. But there was a lot of reasons why people trusted Trump with the economy more. And at this point, though, 27% of Americans, only 27%, think the economy is getting better. 56% of Americans
yeah.
overall think it's getting worse. Now, this is where it's fascinating. And what always blows my mind is that party line difference.
Hmm.
58% of GOP Republicans think the economy is getting better. 6% of Democrats do. 19% of the GOP thinks it's getting worse. 84% of Democrats think it's getting worse. I just don't get
I don't.
how much goes into this political loyalty. Like, why do
Yeah,
people think that politicians deserve their like unwavering, no questionability of what's going on in the world? I
right,
don't get
and
it.
just their support. I don't. I mean, I don't get it either. And like even as you're saying that polling, we'll go into our polling section and we'll loop back around since you're just touching on this because actually it's like even his approval rating is it's gone up one, just plus one in recent pollings, which is kind of hard to think about the way that the economy and these numbers have been rolling out and the policies that he's passed. It's interesting to see that he's actually gone up more so recently, but still on the generic ballot, even though they are terribly disliked. Democrats still have 43% unchanged, and Republicans actually went down -2.
Yeah,
The way that the political spectrum is right now is the most fascinating in terms of numbers, in terms of who individuals like and not liking the party. It's 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 a phenomenon. Basically, what's going to go on right now in 2026 and 2028. I mean, it really, really is. It
yeah,
really is. I mean, on immigration, he's even on the economy, he's -11, and inflation, he's -22. All these levels are back in 2020, basically. So he basically took all that stuff that Joe Biden was trying to do to build back better with the economy, and then boom, gone in 9 months and 5 days. Well, probably a little less than. Well, yeah, we'll just say 9 months and 5 days. Basically, almost gone.
And the thing is, what I really want to add, I know Republicans who still think of that no tax stuff that he was talking about is actually happening. I promise you, when the end of the year comes and tax filing time comes, people are going to go to file their taxes and their accounts are all going to tell them, yeah, you got to pay tax on that.
So I don't know if it's true. Next podcast we can I'll double check and confirm. But I think I did see it was a thread on Twitter about the listings of jobs and well categories of jobs, and within those categories, listings of jobs that would be able to receive the no tax on tips implementation, well tax for the big beautiful bill. So I got to see if that's actually in there. But also I don't know if that may be something that's a part of the next budget bill if it wasn't in this one, because that's
Yeah.
also another thing too. They're going to pass two more continuing resolutions. They have to pass one within this month by the 30th to most likely fund the government until March. And as we were saying in our last episode, they'll probably kick that can around a bunch of times, probably until 2020, like after the elections, 2026, depending upon what happens. If they get more, if they gain more, as in they, I mean, the Republicans gain more and can do more with the House when it comes to the budget and or the Senate when it comes to appointments and so forth. But yeah, that'll be interesting to see. But looking at we're looking at Donald Trump's approval rating. I also want to kind of get into looking at who could be possibly the next president in 2028, because these numbers got me a little bit, not I would say a little excited here. Looking at, I've been talking about Gavin Newsom,
He
and he's
needs the men.
actually,
He needs the
yeah,
men he struggles with
yeah
right now.
he's doing great right now. I mean, honestly, like with 3 years to really pick up slack from the number spread. Like even now, Yahoo YouGov, which are probably mostly Democrats that are probably on there and taking the poll, but still 49% prefer Gavin Newsom over JD Vance, who got 41% against Donald Trump. Gavin Newsom against Donald Trump. Gavin Newsom got 49% again, and Donald Trump got 41%. Even though we all know that Trump is not eligible for a third term. In the primary, Newsom is sitting at 21%. He's gaining more and more and more ground.
The thing
So it's only,
is,
yeah. Mhm.
they this is how I know. Oh, I got a cough. This is how I know that I really don't agree with most Democrats on mostly anything, because the fact that Harris, AOC, and Buttigieg are 2, 3, and 4 in polling
Oh my
blow my
God,
mind.
it blows my mind. But
How
I
are you
think,
going to vote for these? I understand, even though, okay, the progressives, I'll be like, okay, AOC is the most progressive. She's the one you think of when you think
yeah,
of
definitely most
progressive
progressive.
Democrats. There are multiple ways to achieve the goal of taxing the rich further and properly, getting social benefits put in place.
Yeah,
I just don't think AOC's got the passion to do that, because what we've seen with her is that she'll say Israel's committing genocide. This is why this Israel topic is such a litmus test for so many Democrat voters. She'll say Israel's committing genocide, and I still think we should send the missiles. Like,
yeah.
dude,
Like, come on,
dude, like, you know
pick a
what I mean?
side that you're going to stand on and stand on. If you're going to be very progressive, be progressive on all parts of your policy making and so forth. Don't just do it when it matters the most, or when you have a camera in front of you, because everyone can see your votes regardless. So
Half a
it
billion to Israel sure going to help people afford healthcare in America. Thanks, AOC.
right. Yeah, exactly. Which is, I mean, her at 12% doesn't surprise me. It's probably very, very young individuals who are, well, individuals that are probably just getting ready to turn 18, who have favored her innocence. But I think some other interesting numbers as well, which I like, are the 2028 general election, the seven, looking at the seven swing states, so looking at Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, North Carolina, New Mexico, PA, and Wisconsin. So this is by Plymouth Union Public Research. So they have JD Vance at 51% in these seven states overall, basically, and Gavin Newsom sitting at 49% overall, with leaners on Gavin's side. So I think there's a lot of ground that can be made here. I mean, mind you, the methodology was only 1,000 likely voters between August 8th and 10th. Um, but I truly think that Gavin Newsom can really gain a lot of ground from now until 2028. That's going to shock a lot of people. I really do believe he's going to put on a very class act to get the presidency, as well as a class act primary campaign, and also leading up to the announcement of his campaign and everything of that nature. I
I
think
mean,
everyone's going to be very shocked by how well he ends up doing, performing, and how well he is actually received.
the thing is, and like I mentioned earlier, a majority of Newsom supporters are women. And that's the thing about having a pretty face as a candidate. You do literally just get more women by
Maybe
doing that.
he'd be like this talking. You ever
And
see
like
him
people
talk
love
before he
the
goes
women
through?
love it. The women love it. And I mean the thing is like it's nicer to look at a a nice face than an ugly face. You know, and just simply put, it's more like it's nicer on the brain, quite literally more aesthetically pleasing.
Yeah,
But the thing I like about Gavin is that I like the fact that he's willing to um
go as
to
low.
Trump what Trump's doing to others. Like I don't care about any of this. Oh, they go low, we go high
He's
nonsense.
like, if they go low,
No,
we go
dude,
to hell.
the U.S.
Basically,
political game is pedophiles hiding, child trafficking, sex, enslavers. I don't
yeah,
care if they're going low. We go lower, kneecap them, expose them for what they are, and do the damn job. You know
yep.
what I mean? This
Put
isn't
it
a
all on
game of
display.
fairy
Yep,
tales and lightning. This isn't rainbows setting over us after a good day. This isn't taking over the Decepticons after they try to take over Earth. No, it's a dirty game. We got to get our hands dirty to win it. We'll do that. They
literally,
clearly have gone and done it so far. Epstein Files is the perfect example. We can't
perfect
wipe
example.
clean with these people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, no, even the redistricting is another token as well. Like he's even said, like you can't play around with these people. You have to punch them in the face when it comes to policy and formulating offensive policy and strategies, and also putting together defensive policies and strategies too. Like you can't just like cower away and let them do whatever they want and try to take the high road on it. Like no, if they go low, you got to go to hell. You got to go
We go
even lower than
lower.
them.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
for
you no,
real.
no, you don't go lower. You just go straight down. You just go all the way down because at that point, there's no risk to what they're willing to not lose. Basically,
Yeah.
they're already willing to lose their morals on things that they vote on and don't even stand for. Their voters
Well,
are losing their support within those legislators when it comes to these town halls and everything in the nature and how bad they have been recently. I mean, gosh, it's only going to get worse. But yeah,
really
as you
is.
said, it's a litmus test for these individuals, and it's really going to show what happens. And I think that Republicans are going to get punched in the face, and I think Gavin Newsom is the right candidate to be able to relay that message in a professional, high class, high level. But also make it, a community sense, like we're all in this together. Basically, I
Yeah.
think he can. I think he can really do that. I
I
mean,
mean,
I
that's
know
what
he's
they
got his
need to do.
problems, but
Like
come on.
we Americans, all of us Americans, we are in this together against what the
Yeah,
Republicans are trying to do, sell out our country for the rich. The
exactly.
politics in this country has been so polarizing. I mean, we go back to Biden and Clinton. Clinton saying the country that wants to vote for Trump, they're deplorables. I don't want their vote. You know what I mean? One, that how do you think that's going to help? How do you
Right.
think that helps to unify the people under your messaging? If you even think about voting for that guy, I don't need your vote. It's clearly you're not good enough to get to vote for me because I'm better than him. And if you want to vote for him, it's because you're such a sucker too. Like that's not that messaging isn't going to unify anybody. Definitely not going to
No.
unify the country. And I still laugh at this. Biden, if you don't vote for me, you're not black. To be
Yeah.
fair, Trump said the same thing about Jews. Ironically enough, Jews vote majority liberal.
And he said it about Christians too,
Yeah,
and
which
Catholics.
blows
He
my
said about
mind
all of them.
because he is a freak. I was about to cuss. I'm trying to cuss less on this podcast. He's a literal heathen. He's quite literally a heretic. He's a blasphemer, dude. I'll throw out these 17th century strong religious words because that's exactly what it is. The dude has a golden calf in his Florida house that says, "In Trump we trust." Does nobody remember the story of when Moses went up the mountain and came back down to the Israelites worshiping a golden calf and how mad he got? Do we need like a more direct imagery for what's going on? Do we need to have a picture of Trump beside Judas or something? I don't
Yeah,
understand. I literally don't understand. Like, do these people not read the news? I say that, and then I remember this. Back when we first started doing this podcast, I was looking around at which news sources people get take in that allows them to be the most informed. Fox News viewers are informed less than people who don't even watch news or follow up with it. So I was going to say,
Fox doing a
literally,
great
how do
job.
these people not know this? And then I remember they're literally purposely not being
Not,
shown it so
literally
they
not being
don't get
shown.
mad.
Literally,
And then
literally,
they
literally.
don't have the energy or the bother to be like, oh, let me just do a quick Google search in the time of the internet. That's
Right.
blows my mind. But
Yeah.
back to the point is, I definitely do think that the veil is off for the whole identity politics. People are fed up with it. That's what cost the Democrats the election largely, was that and their election, I mean, their economy policies, was because the Democrats lost the vote of minority men by far and large. That Hispanic and black man vote went the other way because of what the Democrats were messaging. And so I think that Trump tried to capitalize off that. And people are now realizing, well, I'm not going to do that again. I do not want to vote for this brand of politics because it is bad for the economy, and I
Yep.
am suffering from that now.
Yeah. I agree. I agree. And I really hope I'm actually going to be pretty excited for once it is election season. It's going to be fun when it is election season on the podcast. I will say,
Yeah. Hopefully we'll
covering a lot.
be a bit bigger, get some candidates on here. That'd be nice.
Yeah, I mean, that would be very nice. Honestly, definitely going to try to, of course. And then, just before we wrap up, I definitely want to just touch on briefly our. There's been a lot of domestic and international policies and movements, should I say? So Trump is once again back at it with the Caribbean. The U.S. is sending fighter jets to Puerto Rico to counter drug cartels. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of for it. It's pretty,
It's the propaganda,
pretty
Michael. They're
bad. It's
getting to
pretty
you.
badass. I'm like, all
Getting
right.
to
But at the
you.
same time, I'm like, this is edging on to almost like full on takeover or full on planning takeover of Venezuela, which I'm like, we don't need to do that for any reason. Like, I understand they are bringing drugs and so forth, but there are other ways to combat that, possibly even with the Venezuelan government to be able to, bring down those numbers and so forth. Now, if he's not able or doesn't want to, he or she, I'm not too sure what's the gender of their leader, don't want to play ball with the United States when it comes to these terms, then I mean, taking a level of military approach to the cartels on our offensive seems like the best way to go about it because Americans are dying from these drugs that are coming over from Venezuela. So I mean, I think it is maybe a major huge step to send them to Puerto Rico to counter the drug cartels. Yes, I do think that it is. I think doing just having it by the Navy with ships, I think would be very more adequate instead of having fighter jets flying around and so forth. But we'll see what the developments are, and hopefully there are no growing tensions and another sparking of a war, but this time below our border, not across our border.
See, this is what I'll add. The majority of drugs, illegal drugs that come into America, are brought in from across the border. They give me a second. And that's the easiest way to get it into the country. We've got a pretty strong Coast Guard, which does pretty good at keeping people off of the shores of our south. But most of it comes through the land. As someone who knows how much the United States is willing to lie and decept people for military use, I full
Mhm.
on don't think those are drug ships. I think that's just an excuse. I think that
You
might.
think so?
I think there may be criminals. There may be, but just because there may be criminals doesn't give us the right to go ahead and bomb other countries' people in international waters, breaking international law. And we've seen in the past the United States use bogus reasoning to even conduct military tests on their own citizens. I mean, we go back to how a lot of African Americans were treated in the World War II and before time, being experimented on essentially for the military's gain. And then we even go to
Yeah,
past the civil rights era where the United States sprayed chemical warfare on the citizens of San Francisco so they could
yeah,
test out biological warfare capabilities on that coast. And hundreds of people died from it. The United States didn't get in trouble for it because they're the government and they got away with it scot free. And the thing is, I think the president has far too much power to call in the military. I understand he's the commander in chief. I think that should be exclusively used for actual war. I'm sick of the
it
whole
was it was originally, and then from um realistically, from you could say Reagan with Iran Contra, you could say it with Bush. Like ever since those eras, there was
the
just
Middle
no
East era.
war. It's just conventional battles. It's
The
just
military industrial complex took in. Like the Congress is
the
never
definition
going
of
to
war
vote.
completely changed for what it actually meant to go to war, because last time there wasn't formal war declaration was World War
Vietnam.
II. I mean, yeah, Vietnam. So it's like, well, actually, was there a formal declaration in
Let me
Vietnam?
check. Let me check. Vietnam
It
was
might
very
not have been.
official. Was
It might
there
have been like
a
it might have been like we're at war, but Congress might not have declared that we're at war.
No, the U.S. never issued a formal declaration of war. Instead, the Gulf of
Yeah,
Tonkin Resolution in 1964 gave the president authority to use a military
yeah. Is
force,
that the
and Congress
willpower
also
guy?
authorized troop deployment in the draft. No declaration of war, and those fuckers did a draft.
Yeah. See, so ever since World War II, yeah, yeah, pretty much. World War II is the last war that actually got declared like on books officially an actual war. Everything is just military conflicts, is what they like
Military
to call it.
operations, special
Military
operations.
entanglements, whichever you word you use, but you don't use war because that's not actually what it is to
It's
them. Basically,
disgusting.
it's
And the
like
thing,
we're fighting with insurgents. We're not fighting with the actual government. Basically, like
yeah,
it's the way you word it, and that's really what politics is. It's a war of how you frame and how you structure language. Basically,
yeah, and it's sickening. It just gives our president free reign to conduct whatever military operations he wants, wherever he wants, or should say they want, with no regard to anything. The thing is, the United States isn't in the ICC, and there's a strong reason for that. We commit a massive amount of war crimes.
yeah,
And there's no secret about that. Every large country, us, China, Russia, India, has committed war crimes. But we more so than them because we inflicted upon international people, whereas Russia, for the most part, was doing it within its borders until the Ukraine war. And China is 100% doing it to its own citizens with slave labor and the Uyghur camps and
yeah,
more. Those countries will, for the most part, get freebies because they're doing it to their own citizens. The international governments aren't going to come down and be like, "Oh, you can't do that to your own citizens." China's going to say, and we would. What are you going to do about how we treat our own citizens? This is our domestic efforts. But when it comes to what we do against other people, it's very clear that the United States has been in a lot of sticky situations in the last 50 years. In the last, I
hmm
mean, heck, since World War II, really. I mean, Vietnam was an extremely messy situation.
yeah,
The Middle East has been an extremely messy situation. And now it looks like we're trying to get involved in even more stuff, which I think will also just lead to more messy situations. I think that the reason why these operations are done is twofold. One, similar to what we see Netanyahu do, operating military forces and saying these people are our enemy and trying to kill us is a good way to keep support for you. And
yeah,
two, military industrial complex is a very powerful thing, and a lot of people make money off of war. Now, a big reason why I'm so against these forever wars, or should I say, never ending military operations, is because the money that goes to these operations, it's taxed from us, the working class, to go to the rich people that own Boeing, Northrop, Raytheon, and more.
yeah,
These billionaires, hundreds of millionaire, hundred millionaires who own these shares in these mass companies, they then get billions and dollars of sales from our taxpayer money from the government, and then that's what goes to the Middle East. That's what goes to Venezuela. The United States government doesn't just poof in an F-35 fighter jet. It doesn't just poof in the
Yeah.
missiles that fighter jet shoots. It doesn't just poof in the ballistic weapons on every bit of its arsenal. Those weapons are all made by private manufacturers, like Northrop, like Boeing, and more. And they
Yep.
don't just give it to the US government out of the good of their old heart. They love soaking in that money. And that's where
Oh
our
yeah, without
money,
a doubt.
our taxpayer money goes. I mean, it bothers me a lot because that's the argument people say. They'd be like, oh, well, don't you want to keep drugs out of the country? I'm like, yeah, I do. And I don't want to spend billions of dollars doing it by blowing up ships and killing people. Like, dude, just go to the border and get and reinforce it some more. I was all for building the wall and getting better border security. I'm all for it. Most Americans are. That's one of the few things that Trump was able to rally a majority of people on was we need stronger border security. I agree with it. And the thing is,
Same.
because most drugs come up from the border, most drugs are smuggled through land on the border, and that's where we see it. Our largest issue with drugs is the Mexican cartel. It's not some dudes in South America. Do you know how far South America has to go to get to us? They got to either
Yeah.
go through the Caribbean, which the Coast Guard will get them, or they have to go all the way through. Dude, the Durang Gap, I believe it's called the Durang Gap. It's the patch of
Mhm.
rainforest in
Yep.
Panama that connects the Darien Gap. The Darien Gap. It's a patch of rainforest between Central America and South America. 20 miles of rainforest with very, very difficult circumstances.
Wow.
I'm talking like there's armed militia groups there because it's a huge area for trafficking. Like they traffic you if they find you. It's a very deadly area that has poisonous animals, very uncomfortable conditions, extremely hot, extremely humid.
Yeah.
If you don't know where you're going to go, it's like 30 miles, 20 miles of like sheer forest.
Sheesh.
If you don't know where you're going to go, you're going to get lost. You're going to die. If
Makes
you don't
sense.
know where to go to avoid the militias, you're going to get either kidnapped or killed. It's a very deadly spot. That's why many people don't go through the Darien Gap unless they absolutely have to. And so what about the people who don't have to go through the Darien Gap? The Mexican cartel, who are already right there. And I think Trump has completely, for the most part, given up on the Mexican cartel just because he can't, he's not having any success with it. So now he's looking for his next victim, which is these new and fearful Venezuelan drug dealers who are smuggling in drugs from the water.
Yeah.
And I think this is going to be something that blows over in like a month, honestly. But I do think this is just an example of him trying to do something to gain some support from his base, making it seem like he's doing something. When I wouldn't be surprised if this doesn't even put like a drop in the bucket in terms of helping prevent the illegal drug trade into America.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised either, and definitely going to be interested to see how this all falls out and how Venezuela responds to it. Just how I'm going to be looking at to see how, like, I know we talked about India earlier in the episode, but I do just want to touch on two more points with India, actually. So the U.S. tariffs were raised 50% on Indian exports due to India buying that Russian oil that we were talking about earlier in this episode, actually sparking anti U.S. sentiment to DEFCON 1 levels, apparently. So
DEFCON 1
yeah,
levels.
DEFCON 1 levels, man. India is grouping up with China and Russia because we were being so hard on them. And then now he took another step, which I think because, you know, India cozying up to Russia and China more, buying their oil, working with them more. Trump is considering a proposal to block U.S. IT companies from outsourcing their work to Indian companies. Honestly, 1,000% for this because my gosh, have me and my girlfriend had tech issues, had to call someone, wanted to speak someone with just an American accent, and every single time it is a Indian person, and it's not even the sense that it's difficult to understand them as well as difficult to for you to relay what is going on with your issue to um, these individuals, and sometimes they don't even work, or they don't even work in the actual building, they're just somewhere else, as which is a part of this whole IT outsourcing from these companies to India, which shouldn't happen. And I think there was in the news, and we reported on here, I think a few episodes ago, someone was checking out of their hotel room. There was no one at the checkout desk, but there's
Oh, yeah, like
a
a
stand with
virtual check-in. It
a
was an
stand with an
Indian.
iPad with an Indian guy there. Like, no, those need to be American jobs. And this is a part of his America First AI and tech policies and so forth. But I believe he's only just doing this just to get a jab at Moody in India for them, cozying up to Russia even more and so forth. This is not a play to do anything better for the American people. I feel like this is more so a play to take a hit at India, realistically.
I agree. I mean, especially by saying this is DEF CON 1. So, for those who don't know what the DEF CON meanings are,
Yes.
DEF CON 5 through 1 is a means of the US government and military to be able to gauge what level of military action is possibly on the horizon for the designated country they're applying that accreditation to. DEF CON 5 is there's no threat at all. DEF CON 1 means nuclear war is imminent.
So that's what
So,
we're thinking about right now with India. If we nuke
so
them,
Trump
that'd
is
be
saying nuclear war is imminent because they rightfully worked more with their trade partners who aren't giving them a hard time because Trump gave them a hard time over doing what was reasonable for their country. And I do think this is just I am confident we are near a point where the GOP is going to be like, dude, we can't. This is destroying the country.
yeah,
Like
they're gonna
we
have to.
cannot support this anymore. It's going to hit a point. At least George Bush and Cheney were professional about their neoconservatism. You know what I mean, about their hunger to be war hawks. They were at least professional and political about it. Trump is just out here like a very mentally unstable child who just got told they can't dictate the rules of the playground. You know what I mean?
Yeah, pretty much, pretty much.
And the fact that they even went to say we're at DEF CON 1 is insane.
It's
Insane.
insane. It's
And,
really insane. But I mean, I like to want to nuke, to want to put India in the status of nuking only because they're getting so close to Russia and China, which I can probably get it, and I can understand it to some degree if you look at it on a national security level, because India does have nuke, China does have nukes, and Russia does have nukes. So we have three nuclear powers all cozying up together. But it's because of the policies that Trump is doing overall. He is pushing India to cozy up to um, Russia and China, and it's not just from the issues of selling and buying oil as well. It's also issues that are stemming from this is going to go into the next piece. Israel and their continuous occupation, and now controlling 40% of the city of Gaza. Like, India is not in favor of that. China is not in favor of that. Russia is not in favor of that. Only major world leader who has been favorable of that, in a sense, has been Donald Trump. So
and the
yeah,
Germans. I
and
just want to throw
yeah,
that
and the Germans and so
and
forth.
the English, the
Yeah,
three
most
countries.
individuals from the European Union, but I'm saying like the top dogs. Everyone, the big ones are not siding with Israel, while we are the ones
Yeah,
that are siding with Israel. So it's just interesting to see that we really are, splitting ourselves apart from the rest of the world and those superpowers. And really, we should be, militarily at distance with them, but economically shaking hands and making sure that we're getting the best policy, they're getting the best policy, and every time we leave a table, no one's happy, because that's realistically how you get the best deal.
I mean the thing is they Putin himself even said, rightfully so, and like I'm not a guy who's going to go around here saying Putin's a great guy. But he did say this rightfully that if Ukraine even did, I mean, if Russia even did a fraction of what Israel was doing to Gaza, they would have been designated a world terrorist organization. They would have been sanctioned to hell and
So
back.
long ago.
And
Yeah.
I mean, to give you guys an idea, in Ukraine, there's been around 13,500 civilian deaths in 3 years. 13,800 is the projected amount over 3 years of the Russian invasion. In Gaza, that is a far higher number. In Gaza alone, over 70% of the people who have been killed have been civilians, and according to Israel's own reports, it's about 83%. Now, to give people an idea, the Nazis they kill of the people they killed, about 40% were civilians. So Israel
Yeah.
has nearly more than a 2x rate of killing civilians than the Nazis. And then on top of that, so it's comparing it to the Ukraine stat, in 3 years of the Ukrainian war, 13,800 civilians have died. In 2 years, 2 years of the Palestinian genocide, 160,000 people minimum have been, that's according to conservative numbers, have been killed. So 10 times, more than 10 times these civilians have been killed in Palestine, and a lesser rate. So Russia was correct. He literally said, if we did even 10% of what Israel was doing, we would have been sanctioned or hell and back. And he's
Yeah,
correct in doing so.
without a
And
doubt, we just
the
get a
thing
free
is,
pass.
absolutely. And the thing is, we need to be friends with these countries. Being friends with Russia and China, I don't agree with what their governments do. I don't agree with everything they say and do. I don't agree with some of the things they do inside their own nations. But being countries with Russia and China and India is far more beneficial than being allies with
Enemies, yeah,
Israel. And you
yeah,
can't even argue with that. People will say, oh, well, Israel is the only country that helps us in the Middle East. They're the only reason we are in the Middle East. Quite
literally.
literally the only reason why we have had this endless military operations that's cost the taxpayers billions, put us in the past into the trillions of deficit. By the way, we were never more than trillions in deficit until not post 9/11 and we started every operation in the Middle East. And it bothers me so much that we're willing to put these global powerhouses that are the only ones that can actually serve to harm us, whether it's economically or militaristically. We're putting them in a position where, like, we don't want you guys. We don't need you. We're going to make life harder for you as much as we can. And then whatever we criticize you for, we're going to allow our friend Israel to do that much worse. You know what I mean? Like every time the US puts out a sanction on Iran, a sanction on Russia, a sanction on India, all I'm thinking is that this is just political theater. This is just
No,
political theater. Like
it
if these
really is
people
political
actually
theater.
cared about upholding the law, international law, or upholding human morals, they would have done something about the RSF in Sudan. They would have done something about Israel. And massively, they would have done something about Israel because that's the country they have the most impact on. But these people don't care about morals. They don't care about what's right or wrong. They care about their own egos. And Trump has one of the largest egos in the
Yeah,
political world. And we're really seeing him throw away what is the better idea and outcome for America, being, at the worst, neutral with Russia and China and India. And he's going to be purposely provocative with them and then taking up literally allow Israel to do whatever it wants policy. And
yeah,
I think that in the future, I'm optimistic once Trump leaves and the Democrat comes in, hopefully a Democrat, then because if it's JD Vance, we're all going to be going under a surveillance state.
yeah,
And I hope that the next Democrat that comes in, hopefully Newsom or just somebody who's not a egomaniac, I hope they try to pull back some of the damage that's been done because I think most of the world agrees and sees that Trump is a fairly unique person, even in the American political realm. I mean, once he left his first term, we went back to Biden, things were fairly normal again, and now he's back in play, and people are again doing the same shit. So I do think that once we get back to the normal, I put in quotes right there, the normal, I do think that we will see a positive change back in world standing because the one thing that I can confidently say the Democrats are good at doing is looking professionally political on the world stage.
yeah. No, without a doubt, they definitely do a very good do a great job at being professional at the political stage compared to really the Republicans. And we'll see what happens in 2026, and we'll continue to provide all this information. And lastly, one thing I just wanted to say is just another tidbit of information for our listeners. Trump Justice Department considers firearm ban for transgender Americans. So the Department of Justice is going through deliberations on a potential rule to restrict transgender individuals from owning guns. Discussed post the Minneapolis school shooting, who the school shooter was identified as transgender. So there have been meetings among officials, ties to conservative pushes for restrictions, and Vance has apparently met with the survivors' families. So I do know, in I think the past like few years, actually, the most recent school shootings have been from well, just shootings in general. I would say like mass shootings in a sense have been from transgender individuals. I think that's school shooting, if I'm not mistaken.
Nah, it's largely just normal people. But
But I'm talking
the
like
transgender part brings in the mental health discussion.
right, right. I'm saying like there's still like the school shooting at that one school where they were investigating the cops for not going in and so forth. Was that individual transgender? I feel like there's been
I'm not
recently
sure,
a
but I do want
few
to add this. I do want to
like
add this, what I think is a very pure, important piece of information. In America, a school shooting can be a shooting that occurs within a half
yeah,
mile of a school. So
right,
to give you guys an idea, just furthermore of how much this makes it difficult to actually speak of the issue. Say you're in, the inner city of Philadelphia or Baltimore or New York City or LA, anywhere that's like, a bit more of the hood, and it's summer. School's not even in session. It's 9 p.m. Nobody's even near the school building. Nobody's working that day because it's summer. It's night. No staff. And then all of a sudden, two guys, walking into each other. They already had beef. They decide to shoot each other. One guy gets killed. The other guy runs away. He dies near school property. That's a school shooting.
yeah,
Not a single student was hurt. Not a single member. No one is even near the school or in the school that was related to the school. But because the shooting happened near a school, within a school's vicinity, it's considered a school shooting. Now, when people think of school shootings, they usually think of a person going into said school and shooting people, which is generally what the popular belief is, which makes sense. A school shooting is just shoot. You go into school and you shoot people. They so and another example of what's a school shooting. Say somebody a crazed crackhead runs into a school during a school day, right? Doesn't have a weapon on him. And he's in there looking like he's about to cause a problem, like he has like a fork on him or a knife, even worst case. And one of the security guards of the school shoot him, shoot him in the leg so he can't run or so he can't move, so he's not a threat. That's a school shooting.
yeah,
That's also a school shooting. Damn. So all of these get tallied up. So if you look at American stats for school shootings, you'll see that we have hundreds of school shootings a year. And then you'll say, there's no way. There is no way we have had hundreds of instances where people have gone into schools and shot people to death. And we haven't. When you hear about it, when it actually happens is when you hear about it, like this Minneapolis case, like the Parkland case. Like a few of the cases that you hear a year are the only times actual school shootings, as we popularly know them, actually occur. So I just wanted to lead with that because people like to say oftenly, there's so many school shootings. This is an issue. Don't get me wrong, it is an issue. We lost innocent children. We lost innocent lives. It is an issue, but it makes it harder to talk about it properly when that statistic is so skewed. You know what I mean? It makes it so like we're talking about, all right, well, how many people are affected by mental health issues, or how many people are psychotic and now they're just going into schools to kill their classmates or kill their teachers, versus now the discussion is, all right, well, how do we even figure out which of this statistic, how much of the statistic is that actual case? Now we've got to take out every case where a student wasn't even harmed, which is in the school shooting statistics. It's more than 80% of the school shootings, there wasn't a student hurt. Now, I just want to end with that and go back to what we were just discussing. I do think that they won't be able to do a transgender ban on owning guns, and nor would I support it. I know on the previous episode I said that there should be a look into it, because I want to clarify that now. I think there should be, or how it already is, mentally unhealthy people aren't allowed to own guns. So I do think that
yeah,
if somebody on their own volition, or somebody, because if you're saying you're transgender, then you're admitting, yes, I have gender dysmorphia. That's a mental illness. And that mental illness can be present with other mental illnesses. Bipolar. If you're bipolar, you're not allowed to legally own a gun. That's a fact. That because you're a risk. Even though
yeah,
with the Second Amendment they consider you a risk because you have a mental health issue, and
yeah.
they I do think that if somebody is suffering from mental health issues, they should be required to go through some form of therapy to be before they can get a gun. Now, this is a sticky slope because if you want to start talking about banning guns for groups in general, it reminds me a bit of, one, it's not pro Second Amendment, but two, it reminds me of when Reagan tried to ban guns when the Black Panthers started to flex weapons against him. Then when he was governor of California, there was a lot of Black Panther protesting against him, and he tried to ban weapons, automatic weapons specifically, because of the Black Panthers having rifles. Now, not all of them were automatic, but you know how it goes. Somebody shows a flashy weapon, they say, "Oh, let's ban these kinds of guns," and then the ban train doesn't stop there; it keeps going. Now, I wanted to ask you, Mikhail, what do you think about this all?
I mean, I think it's just really mental health issue. Realistically, Trump overturned the ruling. It was an Obama era ruling restricting mental health individuals from actually being able to buy guns. So that's where it was first. That's where the first domino fell. Realistically,
Yeah,
so that happened in 2017. So I think that needs to be reinstated. There needs to be less emphasis on transgender, but more emphasis on the actual mental part of it, in a sense, getting to individuals and making sure, like, if they are going to go through this process, that they are mentally prepared for it pre and post and for a life and for their whole life. Like, we don't want instances where, it's the school shootings to transgender and now everyone's in an uproar for those situations and for those reasonings. I think the mental health piece is where it needs to lay at, and that's where I think it can work the best on the policy standpoint for the Trump
yeah,
administration to be able to try to get something done, and even maybe R RFK can have a say in that. Even he, with him having his background, even I know it's more in like environmental and health and sciences and things of that nature. There's still a level of expertise he may be able to bring to the table, and as well, individuals would be more receptive of what he's saying because he is actually the most favorable individual in the Trump administration, even overshadowing Trump himself.
yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to see if they actually do go ahead with an executive order, legislation, whichever, however they do it. But no matter what, on any of these issues and all of the issues throughout the news cycle, always be sure to check out our next episode, and be sure to always check the website for new polls that are up. We always appreciate the continued support and our continued and devoted listeners. Thank you all very much, and everyone have a great weekend.
May peace be with you all, and God bless America.